And welcome to our official 2025 NCAA Division One transfer video. It is actually complete. Welcome back to my channel. Please like, comment, subscribe, share the video. I think this video will generate some interesting discussion in the comments, and I look forward to seeing what you all say. So without further ado, I'll just briefly go over the format. It'll be a similar four-leg format, excuse me. First leg is distance. I know it changed up today. Second leg will be the sprints and hurdles. Third leg, we'll do the throws today. We won't anchor with them like we normally do. We will anchor with the jumps. And just a brief background on the selection process. I focused on two athletes from each gender in each of those four legs that I think will be able to make an immediate impact. Some of them have already done so, specifically in the distance section, which is primarily why they're going first, and some have not. But we're expecting for them to make a major impact. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. We'll start with our first leg, the distance athletes. And the first name that I wanted to just highlight is Yassine Abdallah, who is now of Arkansas, formerly of Tennessee, and formerly of Texas. This is, in fact, his third stop. And this might prove to be the best one. It kind of already has. He had a top 10 finish this past fall at the cross country championship. He is a athlete with a lot of range from the mile all the way up to the 10K. So whatever event he does, get selected to do for Arkansas, they have a rich history of distance runners. I think he is planning to add to that. I think he is a threat to win the SEC championship in whatever race he competes in, and he's going to be a title threat, I think, eventually. And I'm curious to see what they do with him, which event they pick him for, but I think he'll be really competitive. A top five finish was certainly a sign that that was the smart move for him to make. You may have to try and try again, but a change of scenery has proven to always be good for a lot of these athletes, specifically the distance runners. The next distance runner was a bit of a surprise because he is a defending champion, and we did mention him in the preview video for the season. But it's Rivaldo Marshall, formerly of Iowa, now of Arkansas. Two big gets for the men's side of Arkansas, who will, of course, make immediate impacts. As a defending champion, I didn't think he would do that. I thought he may have clearly been happy with Iowa. Things were going well. He had a title. Although his outdoor season didn't shape up to the way he wanted, I think, just a desire to go to Arkansas and be in a more competitive program and conference worked for him. And this is not to knock where he was because Iowa's in the Big Ten, and the Big Ten has been historically known as a great distance conference, although I think, the conference that's kind of stolen their thunder is the ACC. But he made a change to, I think, a more competitive program when it comes to middle distance running. And, we'll see him make a major impact. Will he even be on the 4x4 for Arkansas, too? That remains to be seen. On the women's side, the first transfer, we've already seen what she's capable of because she had a phenomenal cross country season. And I was surprised at her transfer because things were going well for her at Alabama. And that is, of course, Hilda Olamomoy, who is now at Florida. Formerly of Alabama, she returns to her old coach that recruited her, Will Palmer, who's been at Florida for a few years. She's gone toe to toe with the best her entire career. This year was no different. She had a strong cross country season. She had a regional title, although she finished third nationally. She's still proven to be very good, a household name. And she gives immediate credibility again back to the Florida distance group, which had some really talented athletes move on. Parker Valby and Flamina Asico both moved on to professional ranks, and Flamina exhausted her eligibility, so Hilda's got some big shoes to fill, and she's already proven that she's capable of doing that. Also, another big name for me, she kind of fell under the radar a little bit, but her transfer from Michigan to New Mexico, I think, is going to develop her into a top tier athlete. That's Chili Simpson. It was a shock for me. I'm an Eastern Michigan alum. I follow a lot of University of Michigan sports. I remember watching their cross country team this year and thinking, man, they're thin at the top. What happened? And, of course, they lost Samantha Tran and graduate transfer, but they also lost Tilly Simpson. And I think this will be a great get for New Mexico. I'm curious to see what she does, what event she's chosen. You see in the picture there, she's highly capable. And so that was a smart move. New Mexico really done a great job of the past couple of years with their distance runners. And I think, a change of scenery will work for her. Curious to see what happens with the University of Michigan. Are they going to be able to go back to recruiting those big time athletes when they were dominating, in the middle distance races and even the longer distance? But losing two good athletes, I think, is what kind of doomed their season this year. And then we're moving on to the sprints and hurdles. And this is where, I think things get really interesting. As I stated, I only wanted to focus on two. But on the men's side, there were three because one athlete, I'm not even sure if we're going to see him indoors. But the first big name is our only hurdler in this whole video, and that is Malachi Scott, formerly of San Jose State, now of Texas Tech. And to me, he was literally the gem of sprinting and hurdling that was available in the transfer portal because of how well he performed at the championship meet and last postseason, really. He's a 10-0 100-meter runner. He was a freshman last year, so he's got a ton of eligibility left. And there have been very few very fast hurdlers like that. You got your Grant Holloway and your Terrence Jamels, and those are Olympic medalists. It is very rare that you see an athlete with that level of speed, and he's going to a program that is really good with developing their sprinters, but also pretty good hurdlers. I think he is, I had listed him in the preview. He is, to me, the dark horse to win the title right now because he doesn't have the technique that the others do. But who's to say things don't come together? He's already proven that. This is a very talented young man, and I'm very curious to see what his career shapes out to be beyond college because I think we're looking at a potential Olympic medalist. And probably not just any old medal. I think he has gold medal talent. That's just me. But we'll see what he becomes while competing for Texas Tech. Another big name happened just a few weeks ago. This was a shock when it hit. Um, I was literally in the middle of recording something else. Did not think that this would happen. But it's Favor Ash or Favre Ash, who was of Oregon. Was of Auburn. It's now of Oregon. That was a surprise. I did not think he was leaving Coach Burrell. Uh, Coach Taylor at Oregon is really, really good, and I think will develop him, of course. But I didn't see why. I was like, why is Ash leaving? Things are going good. Granted, he had those hamstring injuries and wasn't able to complete a lot of races last year, but he was always a threat anytime he lined up. So perhaps the change of scenery, more focus on his health will be, what gets him to the level that he's trying to get to. But I think he is part of the future of Nigerian sprinting. And I'm really, really curious to see what the change does for him. I'm not sure if he's going to compete indoors because it happened so quickly. It just recently expired. For just a couple of weeks, even when searching for a picture, he didn't even have his picture up yet for the Oregon website. So we'll see. The other big transfer is also, depending on his health, that's Micah Williams, who is now at USC, transferred from Oregon and was doing very well at Oregon, 9.8 speed. I thought a couple years ago that he was the next big American sprinter, and that still could be the case. But a rash of injuries, kind of derailed that, unfortunately. So it remains to be seen what happens. Hopefully he's healthy enough to compete for USC, because if he does, he's an immediate threat. He is, only 5'8", 5'9", but he has powerful tree trunk legs. You can clearly see in this picture that he's still physically fit and ready to go. And I think with the coaching at USC, he is going to be a phenomenal performer. They may have probably their best sprint group, best short sprints group. And I'm going to shock you when I say this, since the 70s. And we're talking the O.J. Simpson era where they just had 3 All-Americans in one event. This is a very deep group at USC, and I think him choosing to transfer was a smart decision. They're going to have a phenomenal team, I think. If they, knock on wood, they stay healthy, it's going to be real tough beating this group. Moving on to the women's side, and these were both a bit of surprises. Didn't really see that happening, and to be fair, one is more surprising than the other. The first transfer is Isabella Wicker transferring from Penn to Arkansas. I didn't think she had exhausted her Ivy League eligibility because we know the rules there are different. But she made the decision to transfer from Penn to Arkansas. That's a smart choice because, as we've seen over the past couple years, Arkansas has really become the king at 400-meter running, specifically on the women's side. And although they had all that talent move on, she's coming back with a 50.17, and she's already ran a 202 800 indoors. So is she even going to be running the 4, or is she going to be running the 8? I mean, super talented. And I really do think she'll be running the 4. I think she's their best shot outside of Kaylin Brown of being a 49 runner. And I think Kaylin's going to run a 48. So we'll see. But this is a really smart transfer on her side. I just didn't think she would. She didn't exhaust her eligibility. I don't think, because we know the rules are very different in the Ivy League. You cannot compete beyond 4 years, but the Ivy League has been insanely, I would say, tough on their athletes because they did not let them compete in 2021 after COVID when everyone else was competing. So a lot of them transferred, and the harshness of the Ivy League rules led to a rash of them transferring to the SEC and to the Big Ten. And she's one of those athletes that just made the transfer over. So looking forward to seeing what becomes of this talented young lady. The next is the big shock, and that's Deja DeFrand of USC, formerly of Florida State, now being coached by Coach Goodman, former coach of Melissa Jefferson. And I didn't think she would transfer. She ran a 10.9 last year. I thought things were going well. But if she's moving on to Coach Goodman, I'm going to say this now, and we follow each other on Instagram. I hope you hear this. I think she can run a 10.8. I'm curious to see what you do with her. Is she going to run a 10.8, a 10.79? She is super talented. You see videos of her on my channel. I saw her in person at the ACC Championships, and I said, she's noticeably a level higher than everyone else in this conference. And maybe she wanted to go against greater competition because USC is like so deep in the 100. I think USC is kind of like Arkansas is the 400. They're going to have a B squad that's better than your A squad. That's how deep I think they are. So I think that the decision to move on was smart. Just was shocked that it was happening because I thought that, if you're running a 10.94, why are you moving on? Because things are going well. Now, moving on to our third leg, we're going to look at our throwers. And this is where things kind of got interesting for me because I didn't really think of the 4 throwers. Only one made sense because he was moving on from junior college. But 3 of them, I was like, whoa, where is that coming from? So the first thrower that we're looking at that kind of threw me off guard, that made me go, what, was Jeremiah Nubb of Virginia, who is now who has left Texas. He was a big get for them. He is a great thrower, great hammer thrower, and I was surprised. I didn't think he would leave Texas. Things were going well. But I think he will make an immediate impact for Virginia, which has had some good throwers recently. And I think he might be making some changes there. He's probably going to take down a record, so we'll see. I think that was a great get for Virginia, but I was surprised he made the decision. Lico Cabrera, who is now at Florida, that wasn't a shock. He was at a junior college, Umpqua Community College, won the championship level there as a javelin thrower and would have been an All-American last year. Now competing at Florida, they're probably expecting for him to make an immediate impact in points, and he probably will. Great coaching there at the University of Florida. Will he be, a shot putter also? Because his shot put throwing wasn't the best there. It's the javelin where he is strongest. And he even is an AAU champion, which is a very positive sign for his skill set. I think that level of competitiveness, that environment, that constant drive to win titles. I mean, you look at their home field, you see nothing but, especially recently, NCAA champion. It's so many. And it doesn't look like it stopped. And I hope it doesn't for Florida. Just been a great great run for Coach Mike Holloway. They're on an incredible run that we've not seen since Texas A&M or when Pat Henry was doing it, or really Arkansas. It's really, really hard for a men's program to win that many consecutively. I think if they're able to pull off the four in a row outdoors, that puts them in an all-time elite category with just them in Arkansas. Uh, on the women's side, big throwing news, one that shocked me, and this one is the one that shocked me the most of the four. And it's Leanna Davidson, who is now at Georgia from Texas A&M. And that's not because the coaching at Georgia is, any type of way. The coaching at Georgia has been phenomenal. She's a javelin thrower, and the coach at Georgia was coaching March Minicello, so he goes from him to Leanna Davidson, who was runner-up last year. And I thought things were going well for her at Texas A&M, but nope, she made the jump over to Georgia. She is an immediate impact because the only person that beat her last year was Rima Odebor, who was a defending champion. And she's also, just like Rima, an Olympic talent. I'm curious to see how things go for her while at Georgia. But I expect for her name to be mentioned here again. I think she's probably going to be the odds-on favorite to win the title this outdoor season, specifically because she's now at Georgia. The other big thrower, and this kind of was a shock. It was Shelby Frank, who's gone from Minnesota now to Texas Tech. I didn't think she was leaving Minnesota. In fact, when I was doing, my research early December for the preview video, I was looking for her name on their roster and didn't see it. I thought she had more eligibility left. So where is she? And, I'm searching, can't find her, look on social media, and I see her with the Texas Tech hat on. And I'm like, wait. And I even said in the preview video, wasn't 100% sure if she made it, but she did compete just this past weekend. So we'll see. She is an All-American. She made the jump to the South. I do think she'll be an immediate impact player. And we might be saying Big 12 champion Shelby Frank come conference championship review weekend. Now moving on from the throws, we'll go to our anchor leg, which is the jumps. And some big time jumpers and some big time stories here. On the men's side, I think the most shocking name we'll talk. I don't know if this is shocking or if it's perhaps the school of choice. It's Jordan Turner leaving Florida State to go to LSU, and this is his third stop. And I say of choice not to knock LSU, but I think his first school, Kentucky, is probably where he should have stayed. He has not matched that performance that he had at Kentucky, but I think that's what LSU is hoping to get, either that or better. And, at LSU, that's the expectation. He was a 26'8" jumper. Many thought the transfer to Florida State was going to make him a 27-foot guy. He's, Calabar High School of Jamaica, which, dominated at the Penn Relays and at Jamaica Champs. So my hope is that he gets back to that level. I understand the need to transfer because the coach just left. It's a new regime at Florida State. And the jumps coach was not retained, which was a bit of a surprise because he had incredible success. I was there at the ACC championship and watched him stand behind his athletes constantly, winning jumps. So we'll see what happens with Jordan Turner now at LSU and how things go with him. The other big thrower was a graduate transfer, Brady Palin, who's now at USC, formerly of Wichita State. He is an All-American. I think he gives immediate credibility to the jumps corps in this specific jump event, the high jump. They've had great high jumpers recently. I think he's going to add to that. As an All-American, we're expecting for him to continue to make an immediate impact. He's in a tougher conference. USC now in the Big Ten, and you got Tyus Wilson of Nebraska over there, along with the bevy of other great high jumpers. So he's going to have to bring his A game while being in the Big Ten now. And on the women's side, Morgan Smalls, who transferred away from LSU to Illinois, to me made the best decision of all the jumpers. That, to me, made the most sense. Because you're now being coached by Petros, and as we saw in week 1, he had 5 long jumpers over 21 feet. But as you're seeing in the graphic there, she is a great high jumper along with a great triple jumper. I think her best event is the high jump. And Petros was really good with that as well. I mean, he was Elena Kulichenko's original coach, and she's still doing well, but this is someone who really knows how to develop jumpers and great field event athletes. And I think we're going to hear Morgan's name mentioned again in one of those events. Also, Christine Blasvica, her teammate, didn't want to include her in here, but I just thought it's a mention. She's around a lot of good talent. This Illinois team will be a team to be reckoned with, specifically because I think they're going to rack up a ton of points in the field events. I'm curious to see how the conference championship weekend turns out. I know for a fact I'm going to be glued to my phone. I'm going to have a tablet with me, and I'm probably going to be watching my TV. I got to see all of this. I think this is just going to be a really good, really, really good postseason. And the last big name and the last major athlete we're going to mention here is Shayla Scott, who's now of South Carolina, formerly of Oregon. And she was a bit of a surprise transfer. She's a 6'2", 6'3" high jumper, someone capable of being an All-American, has been an All-American. She's someone we expect to make immediate impact, even though she's in, to me, a more competitive conference within the jumps. I still think she's going to be expected to make an immediate impact. She's got a tough road because the SEC's got Elena Kulichenko along with a bevy of other jumpers, mind going blank. But we're going to have to put a lot of temporary expectations on her because we're putting a lot on her with that 6'2", 6'3" mark. And in the SEC, that's kind of standard, especially among the elite jumpers. But I think she will make an impact. It remains to be seen how big of an impact. And those are the athletes I think, that'll make the biggest impact as transfers. I'm curious to hear anyone else that you all would suggest, but to me, those were the biggest names. There have been some others who have made some major impacts. Florida had a great transfer class. USC had a great transfer class. Washington got us some big names. So, there are some names out there that haven't been mentioned, but I think the names that I did mention here today are going to be immediate impact players. And remains to be seen on some because we know health is always important, but I do think they're all headed for some great seasons, and a couple have already proven that they're en route because they've already had great cross country seasons. So thank you for spending time with me today. Again, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. I do, as you have seen, reply to comments. And look forward to speaking with you again. We may do a preview video this upcoming weekend. If not, we'll do a review video either this Sunday or Monday. Look forward to chatting with you then. Thanks so much for your support, guys. See you soon.